So good afternoon everyone. My name is Charidel Caliet and I am the one of the reporter of the Group 3. So for today, we are tackled about the factors that causes the changes on the landscape, causes of changes on the landscape, and lastly is contemporary international affairs. So now let's proceed to the first reporter.
Thank you for that, Miss Caliet. So once again, have a good day everyone, especially to our the most beautiful instructor, Doc Belin Lera. Have a good day, Doc. Now let's proceed to our discussion for today. It's all about the factors that cause the changes on landscape. How those factors affect on the landscape and what are those factors. So now let's define factors that cause the changes on the landscape. What are the factors that cause the changes on the landscape? Factors that cause the changes on the landscape. First, a landscape is visible features of an area of land, its landforms, and how they integrate with natural or man-made features. However, a landscape includes the physical elements of geographically defined landforms such as ice-capped mountains, hills, water bodies such as rivers, lakes, ponds, and the sea. Living elements of land cover including indigenous vegetation, human elements, including different forms of land use, buildings and structures, and transitory elements such as lighting and weather condition. Combining both their physical origins and the cultural overlay of human presence often created over millennia, landscape reflect a living synthesis of people and place that is vital to local and national identity. So, here are some factors can cause the changes on the landscape. First, volcanic eruption. Second, floods. The third, fires. Fourth, earthquakes. Fifth, landfills. Variation in climate. Coastal erosion. And now, how does these factors cause the changes on landscape? So let's have first, volcanic eruption. A volcanic eruption can change the shape of the mountain through explosion. The blowing parts eats away. And the number 2 is floods. Flood water can also alter the landscape, for instance, by eroding riverbanks and causing them to collapse. And the number 3 is fire. Fires, both natural and anthropogenic origin, have known biotic and abiotic effects of ecosystem properties and the environment. And the fourth, earthquake. So an earthquake is an intense shaking of Earth's surface. The shaking is caused by movements in Earth's outermost layer. And the number 5 is landfills, also known as a tip, dump, rubbish dump, garbage dump, or dumping ground. So is a site for the disposal of waste materials. Landfills is the oldest and the most common form of waste disposal, although the systematic burial of the waste with daily, intermediate, and final covers only began in the 1940s. And the number 6 is variation in climate. Climate variability occurs due to natural and sometimes periodic changes in the circulation of the air and ocean, volcanic eruption, and other factors. And the number 7 is coastal erosion. So it's the loss or displacement of land, or the long-term removal of sediment and rocks along the coastline due to the actions of waves, current, tides, wind-driven water, and waterborne ice or other impacts of storms. So I think it is very understandable because all of those factors is very common, as we all know that we cannot only here in our country experience those factors that will happen in our environment, but also to the other country and all over the world, especially for those factors that can change in our natural resources or in our natural landscape. So those human activities can also harm in our natural landscape, which is they can do anything. For further discussion, so please watch for the next reporter. Thank you.
Hello ma'am, hello classmate, good day. My name is Benfeld Casili from BSN Social Studies. The topic is all about factors that cause changes on landscape. Why is important factors that cause the changes on the landscape? It's important the land and future are important because they contribute significantly to our well-being and quality of life. They provide the broader context with which we live or lives, living with aesthetically pleasing and culturally meaningful. Landscape enhance our senses of well-being, visiting largely undeveloped landscape enables people to reconnect with natural, to refresh their minds and body and to gain a greater and also landscape importance because landscape provide location to connect with the natural world and bullet environment, a vital record of our past and the place. They leave varied opportunity for learning about our natural and cultural heritage and also importance healthy laws and landscape reduce soil erosion and prevent runoff. Soil erosion and potential wastewater of run are two major concerns. They thinking all about how to make your poverty more environmentally friendly and healthy laws there and landscape can also play a positive role here. What is affect the factors that cause changes on landscape? Affect number one, affect in human activity, increase the rate of which is naturally processes such as weathering and erosion, shape the landscape, the cutting forests, expose more soil to wind and water erosion, populations such as acid rain often speed up the weathering or breakdown of the earth rocky surface and affect increasing temperatures, change in raining pool and unpredictable weathering can put seriously pressure and on natural habitat and wildlife. Change in our climate change can also cause habitat also allows to the speed and hinder the movement of species throughout the landscape and affect in changes in landscape and assessment of landscape affect the purposes the effect of process change and the landscape change and also landscape and how it will be impact on elements that make up the landscape, its aesthetic aspect, perceptual aspect and distinctive. So also characters landscape effect can be positive, natural, or negative. And also affect also moisture, human activity, and temperature are also factors that will affect how landscape change or its form regularly being beaten down by the wind and water. The hot sun, temperature, and human construction will be change the landscape. Affect factors that cause changes on landscape. Number 2, variations temperature change in rainfall. Variation in climate are one cause, but there are other drivers to such as a volcanic eruption, coastal erosion, flood, fire, and earthquake. And so the example in picture, the next reporter.
Good afternoon everyone, I am Kabusog Nenalindi. So I'm going to give examples, the factors which causes the changes on the landscape. First, we have earthquakes. An earthquake is a weak to violent shaking of the ground produced by the sudden movement of rock materials below the earth's surface. So, these pictures depicts the earthquakes before and after. So, as we can see, before an earthquake, everything in the immediate vicinity is tranquil, including the building and the highway. However, after an earthquake, there are many changes that harm both the building and the roadway. So, in the essence, an earthquake can alter the landscape by shaking the ground. A volcano is a hill with an opening through which gaseous, liquid, or solid materials can escape from the interior of the earth, stand or rupture in the surface of crust of earth, which allow hot, molten rock and ash and gases to escape from deep below the surface. So before the eruption, we can see the volcano as peacefully. The plants are really green. It is very nice to camp there with a beautiful landscape formation. But when it comes to erupt, the volcano will be devastated. Because instead of being green, it is full of dust and ash. The eruption of the volcano can affect the land formation, especially the nearby area. A landslide is a mass movement of materials such as rocks, earth, or debris down a slope. They can happen suddenly or more slowly over long periods of time. Landslides are caused by rain, earthquakes, volcanoes, or other factors that makes the slope unstable. Landslides only happen in hilly areas. The reason for landslide is just because when it rains heavily. Whatever disasters comes, it can cause of landslide, especially when there is no trees in the hills. Landslide affecting plants, residents, and of course in the formation of land that can make the places risky. Flood is one of the natural disasters and most risky. It happens when too much water is collected in any area. It often happens because of heavy rain, the overflow of rivers. Causing these natural disasters is widespread in rural areas. Rain has an effect on earth, one of which is flooding, especially in rural areas. When there is little rain, water accumulates easily. Because of this, many people are affected. And also, flooding can increase the formation of rivers. What is fire? A process in which substances combine chemically with oxygen from the air and typically give out bright light, heat and smoke, combustion, or burning. It immediately affects the landscape by removing vegetation, depositing ash, influencing water repellent, soil formation, and physically weathering boulders. That's all my parts. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Once again, my name is Chardel Calyet and I am your fourth reporter this afternoon. So for today, I am going to tackle about what is landscape. So I know that all of you here know what is landscape all about. So allow me to have a short recap what is landscape. So landscape is a part of Earth's surface that can be viewed at one time from one place. It consists of the geographic features that mark or are characteristic of a particular area. So these are the types of landscape. First, we have desert. Second, we have mountain. Third, we have mountain range, wetland, glacier, and etc.
Before we proceed, please watch this short video. This video showing the changes on the landscape. Please keep on watching.
on this, so I'm going to discuss the common causes of changes on the landscape. So what is natural disaster? A natural disaster is the negative impact following an actual occurrence of natural hazard in the event that it significantly harms a community. A natural disaster can cause loss of life or damage property and typically leaves some economic damage in its wake. Example, hurricanes and tropical storms, landslide and debris flow, thunderstorm and lightning, tornadoes, tsunami, wildfire. So, the question is, how the natural disaster can change the landscape? So, in a natural disaster, there is a disaster called tornadoes, tsunami, wildfire, and flood, right? And this kind of natural disaster brought a negative impact following an actual occurrence of natural hazard in the event that it significantly harms a community, but not just the community is affected by it, because a natural disaster can cause also a damage in our environment and places like landscape. So obviously, the natural disaster has the factor of the changes in landscape, such as the flood, tsunami, and tornadoes are the common threat and causes of changes in landform. Because of the heavy impact of it, there would be a landslide happen maybe during or after the disaster occurrence. So why the landscape change? Landscape change because they are the expression of the dynamic interaction. When we say dynamic interaction, these are the interaction between natural and cultural forces in the environment. It means the constant change of the landscape has naturally and culturally. The constant change of nature, then the constant change of the man-made interaction in environment like cultivation of the land, such as agricultural system.
How does the nature disaster affect the landscape? So, other disasters such as wildfires, floods, and tornadoes can completely defoliate forests and cause other types of structural changes to ecosystems. So many human activities increase the rate at which natural processes such as weathering and erosion the shape into the landscape. Then, in deforestation example, slush and born agriculture is a big contributor to deforestation in the tropics. With this agricultural method, farmers burn large swaths and forest, allowing the ash to fertilize the land for crops. So, next is burning fuel. They release large amounts of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, which contribute to the formation of smog and acid rain. So next is overpopulation. This more people means an increased demand for food, water, housing, energy, healthcare, transportation, and more, and all that consumption contributes to ecological degradation. This increased conflicts and a higher risk of large-scale disasters like the pandemics. Then, the main cause of deforestation is agriculture, and the main cause of forest degradation is illegal logging or kaingin. Then, the causes of deforestation is the hurricanes, fires, parasites, and floods. And then the impacts from human activity on land and in the water can influence ecosystems profoundly. That's all. Thank you.
So hello everyone, good afternoon. By the way, my name is Clarice Kimbal, and I'm going to tackle about the contemporary international relations. So what do you mean by contemporary international relations? It includes politics, government, us, events, and activities that involve the government, politics, and economics. International relations, often known as international studies and international affairs. It is the scientific study of relationships between sovereign states. International relations is an interdisciplinary discipline of research and practices that combine the study of economics, history, and political science to explore issues like human rights, global poverty, the environment, the economics, globalization, security, international ethics, and the political climate. It also encompasses all interactions between nations, including conflict, diplomacy, trade, and foreign policy, as well as interactions with and among other international organizations, international NGOs, global enterprises, and international legal bodies, mostly concerned with specific interactions between countries, whether that's two countries or more. International relation has a broad purpose. First, the origin, war, and the maintenance of peace. Second, the nature and exercise of power within the global system. Third, the changing character of state and non-state actors who participate in international decision-making. So in contemporary international relations has also importance. In today's world, studying and practicing international relations is important. Why? Because of the following reason. First, international relations promote successful trade policies between nations. Second, international relations encourages travel related to business, tourism, and immigration, providing people with opportunities to enhance their lives. Third, international relations allow nations to cooperate with one another, pool resources, and share information as a way to face global issues that go beyond any particular country or origin. Contemporary global issues include pandemics, terrorism, the environment, and lastly, the international relation advances human culture through cultural exchanges, diplomacy, and development. International relations also examine the multidisciplinary nature of international relations as a discipline, drawing on history, law, philosophy, politics, sociology, and psychology for intellectual inspiration. So that is contemporary international affairs.
So good afternoon everyone, I am Shiki May Isauna Medjavilla, and for my part, I will tackle about international affairs or relations theories. International relations theories can help us understand how international systems work and how nations interact with one another and perceive the world. International relations theories, which range from liberal, equality-centric strategies to straightforward realist concepts, are frequently used by diplomats and international relations experts to direct a government's response to an international political issue or concern. The five main theories of international relations or affairs are the realism theory, liberalism theory, Marxism theory, constructivism theory, and the feminism theory. First is the realism theory. This is the theory that states are motivated by national interests and that governments act primarily to maintain their security and influence over other countries. This theory focuses on power and state-to-state interactions, viewing international politics as a struggle for power among states. Second theory is the liberalism theory. It is one of the most influential theories in international relations because it emphasizes the importance of individual rights and freedoms as well as democracy. This theory focuses on how states can cooperate with each other to create an international society that promotes peace and prosperity for all individuals regardless of their nationality or status. So to clarify, realism is used to illustrate competition in state-to-state relations, which is seen as negative in international system. The desire to advance and further the interests of a certain nation drives from every decision in relationship between states. Nation-states act to protect their interests, which suggests that any state's activity is intended to protect that state's interests. On the other hand, liberalism depicts on a change in international scene that aims to enhance interactions between nation-states in various aspects of development. Liberalism as philosophy in political economics focuses on the change in policies and legislations in order to promote a development of nation-states. The third theory is the Marxism theory. It is a philosophy of thought that advocates class struggle as the motor force of history. Marxists believe that capitalism creates the condition for conflict among countries by creating economic inequalities among countries and by forcing some countries to compete for resources with others. Marxism as the theory of international relations rejects the realism and the liberalism views and focuses only upon the economic and material aspects. The next is the constructivism theory. It is a theory that states that international relations are constructed through reciprocal interactions between states. This theory purports that international relations were about power, not about a collective security or economic development. For example, an agreement on the border dispute between China and Bhutan could change how countries perceive each other. This change might lead to the establishment of an official relationship, the nature of which is friendship rather than enmity. Example of international relations is that when a nation is part of an international organization, and one of the international organizations which is very familiar to us is the United Nations. We all know that the main objectives of the United Nations are the maintenance of international peace and security, the promotion of the well-being of the peoples of the world, and international cooperation to these ends. So that's all for my part. Thank you and God bless.